The gun barrel pressed against the first twin's temple should have been the end of the story. 3 armed men, 2 terrified 11-year-olds, and a corporate parking garage with no witnesses, just another headline about violence in the city. But then the janitor stepped out of the shadows and everything changed. Not with a weapon. Not with a fight. With 3 words that made hardened criminals drop their guns and run like their lives depended on it. Because those 3 words were a name. A call sign from a world most people never see, where reputation is currency and fear is survival. Welcome to a story where a mop and bucket hide the most dangerous man these muggers ever met. Where a CEO learns that real protection doesn't come from boardrooms. And where twin daughters discover that heroes sometimes wear janitorial uniforms and smell like cleaning solution and second chances. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you. Make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The fluorescent lights in Ashford Tower's underground parking garage flickered like dying fireflies, casting shadows that danced between concrete pillars. Sean Douglas pushed his cleaning cart past luxury vehicles that cost more than he'd make in 5 years. Headed toward the executive level where someone had spilled coffee in elevator 3. Again, he was humming an old jazz tune, thinking about his daughter Riley's science project due tomorrow when he heard the voices. 3 men, tones aggressive and urgent. Then a sound that made his blood freeze, a young person's frightened whimper. Quickly silenced, Sean stopped humming. "Please. We don't have anything valuable," a young female voice pleaded, trying to sound brave and failing. "Our mom's upstairs. She'd be down any minute." "Your mom's Vanessa Cruz, CEO of Apex Technologies," a male voice responded, rough with the kind of confidence that came from holding power. "Which means you're very valuable. Now shut up and walk." Sean set down his mop with careful silence. His janitor's uniform navy blue with building services embroidered on the chest marked him as invisible in spaces like this. People saw the uniform, not the man. That invisibility had kept him safe for 3 years, had let him build a quiet life after walking away from a world most people didn't know existed, but invisibility was a choice. And some situations demanded you be seen. He moved between the parked vehicles with practiced silence, his body remembering skills he'd tried to forget. Through the gap between a Mercedes and a Tesla, he saw them, 3 men in dark clothing surrounding 2 young people, identical twins, maybe 11 years old, wearing private school uniforms. One man held a pistol casually at his side. Another gripped the first twin's arm hard enough to leave bruises. The third kept watch, eyes scanning for witnesses. Professional, organized. This wasn't a random mugging. Sean's tactical mind, rusty but never truly dormant, cataloged details. The leader with the gun stood too close to his hostage's amateur mistake. The lookout was focused on the entrance, not checking behind. The one holding the twin had relaxed his grip slightly, confident in his control. They didn't know they'd already lost. Sean stepped into the open, pushing his cleaning cart forward with casual confidence. "Evening, gentlemen, ladies." His voice carried the mild tone of someone who interrupted nothing more serious than a conversation. All 3 men spun toward him. The leader raised his pistol. "Walk away, janitor. This doesn't concern you." "Actually, it does," Sean said, continuing to approach with his cart. "See, I just mopped this section 2 hours ago, and you're tracking dirt everywhere. Real inconsiderate." The second man laughed harshly. "Old man, you got about 5 seconds to disappear before this gets ugly for you." "Old man?" Sean smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "I'm 37. Just look tired because I work nights." He stopped about 15 feet away, hands visible on the cart handle, unthreatening, non-aggressive. "How about this? You let those young ladies go, and I'll clean up your mess. No police, no fuss. Everyone walks away. How about you mind your business?" The leader stepped forward, gun now pointed directly at Sean. Last chance. Turn around. The twins were watching him with desperate hope. The first twin had tears streaking her face, but her jaw was set with determination. The second twin was analyzing him with sharp intelligence, clearly trying to understand why a janitor would intervene against armed men. Sean let out a long breath. All right. I tried the polite way. He looked directly at the leader, and when he spoke again, his voice carried a weight that made all three men tense instinctively. Tell your boss that the Wraith said to back off. The effect was immediate and stunning. The leader's face went white. His gun hand trembled. No, you're not the Wraith disappeared 3 years ago. You're just some janitor, am I? Sean's smile was cold now, predatory. You want to test that theory? Because I remember faces. I remember voices. And I definitely remember the organization that sent you. He nodded at the lookout. That tattoo on your neck, 3 horizontal lines. Novak Syndicate. Which means your boss is probably Dmitri or his cousin Anton. They know the Wraith. They know what happens to people who don't listen when I tell them to walk away. He's bluffing, the second man said, but his voice shook. Then call his bluff, the leader snapped. But he wasn't moving. Wasn't pointing the gun at Sean anymore. Sean took a step forward, hands still visible, posture relaxed. But something in his eyes, some echo of the man he used to be, made all three men step back. Here's what's going to happen, Sean said quietly. You're going to release those young ladies. You're going to leave this garage. And you're going to tell whoever hired you that Vanessa Cruz and her daughters are untouchable. Not because of corporate security. Not because of police protection. But because the Wraith is back in the game. And anyone who touches this family answers to me. Drop a comment telling us which city you're watching from. These stories of unexpected heroes reach every corner of the world. And I love seeing how far courage travels across mountains. Valleys and urban jungles alike. The lookout broke first. Dmitri said if we ever saw the Wraith, we run. No questions. No second chances. He said the Wraith once walked into a warehouse with 15 armed men and walked out alone. That was 13 men, Sean corrected mildly. 2 ran fast enough to live. Be smart like they were. The leader was sweating now, gun lowering despite himself. If you're really him, prove it. The Wraith had a signature move. Sean moved. 1 second he was standing by his cart. The next he was behind the leader, the man's own gun pressed against his temple. Extracted so fast none of them had processed the movement. Sean's other hand gripped the leader's wrist at a pressure point that made his fingers spasm open. Signature enough for you? Sean whispered in his ear. Then louder, let them go, now. The man holding the first twin released her immediately, hands raised. The lookout was already backing toward the exit. The leader, feeling the cold metal of his own weapon against his skull, nodded frantically. Sean stepped back, ejecting the gun's magazine and clearing the chamber in one smooth motion. He pocketed the bullets and tossed the empty weapon aside. Run! They ran. Sean turned to the twins, his expression softening immediately. Both were staring at him with wide eyes, fear giving way to shock, giving way to something like awe. You're safe now, he said gently, pulling out his phone. Let's call your mom and security. The first twin, braver now, stepped forward. You just made 3 armed men run away without hurting anyone. Who are you? I'm Sean. I clean floors and fix lights and make sure this building stays running. He offered a kind smile. Sometimes I also make sure people stay safe. The second twin was studying him with that sharp intelligence again. The Wraith. That's not a janitor's nickname. No, Sean admitted. It's not. But that was a different life. These days, I'm just a dad with a mop and a daughter at home who needs help with her science project. But as he called security and stayed with the twins until their mother could be located. Sean felt the old weight settling back on his shoulders. He'd used his real name as call sign, the name that had made him a ghost story in the criminal underworld for 5 years before. He'd walked away, the name that ensured anyone who heard it would spread the word. The Wraith was back, and that meant the peace he'd built for himself and Riley had just shattered like glass. Sean Douglas had not always pushed a mop through the corridors of Ashford Tower. Once, he'd walked very different corridors, the kind where billion-dollar deals went wrong, where executives needed problems solved quietly, where corporate espionage met personal protection, and sometimes people disappeared because they'd threatened the wrong client. He'd been the Wraith because he moved through criminal underworlds like smoke, invisible until he struck. Not a killer. Sean had rules, but a fixer who made problems vanish and protected people who couldn't rely on conventional security. Corporate clients who needed their CEOs safe from hostile takeovers that came with bullets instead of paperwork. Witnesses who'd testified against organized crime and needed to disappear completely. Executives whose competitors hired more than lawyers. For 5 years, from age 25 to 30, Sean had been the best at what he did. His reputation alone prevented violence more often than his actual interventions. Criminal organizations learned quickly, if the Wraith was protecting someone, you walked away. Then Riley was born. And everything changed. Her mother, Jessica, a corporate lawyer Sean had protected during a particularly nasty case, had died from complications during delivery. The doctors said it was rare, unpredictable, no one's fault. But Sean had spent 5 years preventing bad things from happening to people, and he couldn't prevent this. Couldn't protect the woman he loved from biology and terrible luck. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. He'd held his newborn daughter in the hospital. This tiny person who weighed barely 6 pounds, and made a decision. Riley would not grow up knowing her father as the Wraith. She would not lie awake wondering if he'd come home from whatever dangerous job kept him out all night. She would not have a childhood defined by secrecy and danger. So Sean had done the impossible. He'd walked away. He'd used his connections one last time, not for violence but for disappearance. Changed identities legally, moved to Ashford, 3 states away from his old life, and found the most ordinary job imaginable. Night janitor at a corporate office building. Invisible, unremarkable, safe. For 3 years. It had worked perfectly. Riley, now almost 8 years old, knew her dad as the man who made her breakfast, helped with homework, attended every parent-teacher conference, and worked nights to keep their small apartment paid for. She knew he was strong. She'd seen him carry heavy equipment easily, and smart. He helped her with math problems the teacher said were advanced. But she didn't know about the Wraith. Their apartment was modest but comfortable, in a decent neighborhood with good schools. Sean had chosen the location carefully. Low crime, tight-knit community, far from the urban centers where his old reputation might resurface. He'd built a life of routine and normalcy. Every evening, before leaving for his shift, he'd make sure Riley's homework was done. Dinner was prepared for her babysitter, Mrs. Patterson, an elderly neighbor who adored Riley, and her lunch was packed for school tomorrow. He'd double-checked that doors were locked, though he'd also installed security measures Mrs. Patterson didn't know about. Old habits died hard. "Daddy, do you think my volcano will actually work?" Riley had asked that evening before he left for work, staring at her science project with serious concentration. She had his dark hair and Jessica's green eyes, and when she focused on something with such intensity, Sean's chest ached with love and loss. "It'll work," he'd assured her. "We tested the vinegar and baking soda ratio twice. Just remember to stand back when you pour. Like you always say, prepare for the reaction before you cause it." "Exactly." Though Sean had been teaching her scientific method, not tactical planning. Or so he told himself. Dad? Riley had looked up at him with those intelligent eyes. Why do you work at night? Other kids' parents work during the day. It was a question she asked periodically. And Sean always gave the same answer. Because night shift pays better. And it means I'm here when you wake up and when you get home from school. We get more time together this way. Which was true. But the fuller truth was that night work kept him away from day shift crowds, from people who might recognize him, from the possibility that someone from his old life would appear and destroy the peace he'd built. Riley had accepted this, as she always did, and hugged him before he left. Love you, Daddy. Don't work too hard. Love you too, baby girl. Finish your homework before bed. The Ashford Tower night shift was usually peaceful. Sean cleaned offices on floors 3 through 15, maintained the break rooms, and handled minor repairs. His supervisor, Gary, was a friendly man in his 50s who appreciated that Sean never complained and always showed up on time. The day shift security guards, Tom and Linda, knew him as the quiet janitor who sometimes brought homemade cookies. Riley had. Baked, invisible, normal, safe. But Sean had also spent 3 years quietly observing everything about Ashford Tower. He knew which executives worked late regularly, knew which security cameras had blind spots, knew the building's structure intimately, where the secure stairwells were, which doors could be locked from inside, where someone could hide if they needed to. Not paranoia. Preparation. Because the world Sean had left didn't forget people like him, and tonight, in the parking garage, his worst fear had materialized. He'd been forced to reveal himself, the Novak Syndicate. Sean knew them well. They ran protection rackets and corporate espionage throughout the eastern seaboard, selling muscle to executives who played dirty. If they were targeting Vanessa Cruz's twin daughters, someone had hired them. Someone with resources and motivation, which meant this wasn't over. Sean stood in the parking garage now. An hour after the confrontation, watching as building security reviewed camera footage and took statements from the twins. Police had come and gone, filing reports but clearly frustrated by the lack of useful evidence. The muggers had worn gloves, faces partially obscured, and would be impossible to identify through conventional means. But Sean could identify them. He'd seen the lookout's tattoo, recognized the leader's accent, noted the quality of their weapons. Give him 2 hours and access to his old contacts, and he'd have names, addresses, and the identity of whoever hired them. He wouldn't, though. That path led back to the life he'd left. The life Riley couldn't know about. Excuse me? Sean turned to find one of the twins approaching, the second one. The analytical one. Up close, he could see she and her sister were identical in appearance, but different in demeanor. This one moved with careful confidence, studying him like a puzzle to solve. Yes, miss? I'm Skylar, she said. My sister's Harper. We wanted to thank you properly, but security wouldn't let us talk to you before. No thanks necessary. I'm glad you're both safe. Skylar tilted her head, clearly not satisfied with the polite dismissal. The Wraith. When you said that name, those men looked like they'd seen a ghost. What does it mean? Sean considered his answer carefully. It means I used to have a job that required a reputation. I don't have that job anymore. Now I clean floors. Why? Because cleaning floors is honest work that doesn't keep me up at night. But you were obviously good at the other thing. The dangerous thing. Skylar's intelligence shone through her young face. Why give it up? Sean thought of Riley waiting at home, probably asleep now with her volcano project on the kitchen table. Because I have someone more important than reputation to take care of. And she deserves a father who comes home. Understanding flickered in Skylar's eyes. You have a daughter. I do. About your age. Then you understand, Skylar said quietly, why our mom is terrified right now. Why she works so hard to keep us safe, but it's never enough. She paused. Those men said we were valuable because of who our mom is. This isn't the first time someone's tried something. Before Sean could respond, Harper appeared, followed by a woman who could only be Vanessa Cruz. She was in her late 30s, wearing an expensive business suit that looked hastily thrown on. Her dark hair escaping from a bun, her face marked by fear barely held in check. "Girls." "Step back," Vanessa said, her voice controlled but tight. Then she turned to Sean, and he saw the moment she truly looked at him, past the janitor's uniform to the man underneath. "You saved my daughters," she said. "Security told me what happened. 3 armed men, and you made them leave without violence. They said you used a name that frightened them. The Wraith." Sean nodded slowly. "It's a name from a life I left behind 3 years ago." "Why did you leave?" "Because I became a father, and I wanted my daughter to have a normal life. The same reason you work so hard to protect your girls. We do what we must for the people we love." Vanessa studied him for a long moment, and Sean saw the calculation happening behind her eyes. She was a CEO, used to assessing people quickly, making decisions with incomplete information. Finally, she spoke, her voice low and urgent. "Mr. Douglas Sean, I need to speak with you privately. There are things you don't understand about what happened tonight. Things that put your daughter at risk now too, because you helped mine." Sean's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "I mean that whoever sent those men knows you interfered, knows your real identity. And the Novak Syndicate doesn't forgive or forget." Vanessa's composure cracked slightly. "I'm so sorry. By saving my daughters, you've painted a target on your own back. On Riley's back." The name of his daughter on a stranger's lips made Sean's tactical instincts flare. "How do you know my daughter's name?" "Because I've already had my security team pull your information. I know you're a single father. I know you live at 847 Maple Street, apartment 2B. I know Riley is in 2nd grade at Oakwood Elementary. And I know that right now, someone else is pulling that same information, planning their response to what you did tonight." Sean's mind raced. She was right. By revealing himself, he'd connected Riley to his past. Every person who'd ever wanted revenge on the Wraith now had a vulnerability to exploit. "I need your help," Vanessa continued, seeing his fear. "And you need mine. Because separately, we're both targets. But together, we might have a chance to protect all 3 of our daughters." Sean's first instinct was to refuse. To run, to grab Riley and disappear into the kind of deep cover he'd arranged for witnesses in his old life. But Vanessa was right. Running meant living in fear forever, always looking over their shoulders, Riley never understanding why they'd abandoned their life. "Talk fast," Sean said. "Tell me everything. Why were those men after your daughters?" Vanessa glanced at the twins, then back at Sean. "Not here. My car. It's swept for surveillance devices daily." They moved to executive parking spot where a midnight blue sedan waited armored. Sean noted from the way it sat on its suspension. Vanessa's security detail started to follow, but she waved them back. "Give us 10 minutes. Watch the perimeter." Inside the car, Skylar and Harper sat in the back seat while Vanessa and Sean occupied the front. The CEO pulled out a tablet, her fingers moving with practiced speed across its surface. 3 months ago, my company Apex Technologies developed a breakthrough in quantum encryption, Vanessa began. Not an improvement on existing systems. A complete revolution. Our encryption can't be broken by any known computing method, including future quantum computers. It makes all digital communication absolutely secure. That's worth killing for, Sean said quietly. Worse, it's worth controlling. Governments want it for national security. Corporations want it for competitive advantage. Criminal organizations wanted to make their operations invisible to law enforcement. Vanessa's voice was tight. I've refused every offer, every threat, every incentive. The technology is too dangerous to let any single entity control it. So I've been working with international oversight committees to release it as open source, freely available to everyone. Which makes you a threat to everyone who wanted exclusive control. Exactly. 6 weeks ago, someone tried to hack our servers. Failed, but they learned something during the attempt. Vanessa pulled up a photo on her tablet, the twins at a company event, standing beside their mother during a ribbon-cutting ceremony. They learned that my daughters sometimes visit the office. And they learned that Harper has an eidetic memory for everything she sees. Sean looked at the twin in the backseat. Harper, the analytical one. You memorize things? Perfectly, Harper said, her voice small but clear. I can't forget, ever. Mom brought us to the lab once, 3 months ago, just for an hour while she handled an emergency. I watched her work. I saw the encryption algorithms on her screen. And you remember them, Sean finished, understanding flooding through him. Every equation, every variable, every detail. You're a walking backup of your mother's research. Which makes her a target, Vanessa said. And Skylar too, by association. If someone takes the twins, they have leverage against me and access to the research through Harper's memory. Why not just destroy the research? Sean asked. Start over in secret? Because it's already been submitted to the International Encryption Standards Committee. The public announcement is in 5 days. If I destroy the work now, it suggests the encryption is flawed or compromised. Apex's reputation would be destroyed, and the committee would never trust me again. The technology would be delayed for years, possibly forever. Sean processed this, his mind automatically planning defenses and escape routes. So you need 5 days. After the announcement, the encryption becomes public knowledge. Harper's memory becomes worthless to kidnappers because everyone will have access to the same information. Yes, 5 days where my daughters are maximum value targets. Vanessa turned to face him fully. Sean, I've had private security protecting them for 6 weeks. The best money can buy. But they think like security perimeters, protocols, predictable patterns. You think like someone from the other side. You know how criminals plan because you fought them for years. I was never a criminal. I know. I've researched you, or rather, what little public record exists of the Wraith. You protected people. Executives who'd been targeted by hostile competitors. Witnesses testifying against organized crime. Corporations facing violent takeovers. You had a code. No innocent casualties, minimal violence, maximum discretion. You were expensive, exclusive, and completely effective. Vanessa's voice dropped. 3 years ago, you disappeared completely. Every contact went silent. Every case closed. It was like you'd never existed. My daughter was born, Sean said simply. I chose her over that life. And tonight, you chose my daughters over your anonymity. Vanessa's eyes were intense. The Novak Syndicate will report back to whoever hired them. They'll say the Wraith is protecting us. That will deter some threats, but it will also escalate others. People who've wanted revenge on you for years will see an opportunity. Your daughter becomes a target. Sean's jaw clenched. She was right, and he hated it. Mom? Skylar spoke up from the back seat. Mr. Sean has a daughter our age. Could we meet her? Maybe she'd like our company while all this is happening. It was such an innocent question, delivered with such hopeful sincerity, that Sean almost smiled despite the circumstances. That's actually not a bad idea, he said slowly. Riley's being watched by our neighbor tonight. Tomorrow I usually take her to the park after I sleep a few hours. If your security is competent, they'll have already identified her as my vulnerability. Better to bring her into a controlled environment than leave her exposed. Vanessa nodded. I have a secure residence. Gated community, private security, reinforced safe room. Bring Riley there tomorrow. My team will make it look like a playdate, normal, unremarkable. We'll figure out the rest from there. And what is the rest? Sean asked. What exactly are you proposing? 5 days of protection. You and your expertise, combined with my resources. Keep the twins and Riley safe until the public announcement. After that, the encryption is released, the threat level drops dramatically, and we can all return to our lives. 5 days where I'm living in your world, where Riley is exposed to danger she's never known, where I have to become the Wraith again. Sean shook his head. That's asking more than you know. I know, Vanessa said quietly. But Sean, you revealed yourself to save my daughters. That can't be undone. The only path forward is through. 5 days of controlled danger, or years of looking over your shoulder waiting for revenge you can't prevent. Harper leaned forward from the back seat. Mr. Sean? When those men had us, I was calculating probability matrices for rescue. Security arrival, police response time, possibility of escape. Every scenario ended badly until you appeared. You changed the equation, made the impossible possible. My sister's really good at math, Skylar added. And she's never wrong about probabilities. If she says we need you, we need you. Sean looked at the three of them, Vanessa with her controlled desperation, Skylar with her hopeful intelligence, Harper with her analytical certainty. Then he thought of Riley, sleeping peacefully at home, unaware that her father's past had just crashed into their present. I need to talk to Riley first, he said finally. She deserves to understand what's happening, at least in terms she can process. And I need to see this secure residence, evaluate your security team, establish protocols. Of course. Tomorrow noon. I'll send you the address. Vanessa pulled out a business card, actual paper, probably the only thing she trusted not to be digitally traced. My private number. Call if anything seems wrong, if you see anyone suspicious, if Riley is in any danger. Sean took the card, then met her eyes. 5 days. I'll keep your daughters safe. But understand this, Riley comes first. Always. If I have to choose between protecting your girls or mine, I choose mine. I would expect nothing less, Vanessa said. And Sean? Thank you. For tonight, and for what you're about to do. As Sean walked back to his cleaning cart, his phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Patterson. Riley woke up asking about you. Told her you'd be home soon. She's working on her volcano again. That girl never stops. Sean smiled despite the weight settling on his shoulders. Riley never stopped. Never gave up. Never let fear control her curiosity about the world. He built 3 years of peace for her. Now he had 5 days to make sure that peace could continue, even if it meant temporarily becoming the person he'd sworn never to be again. The Wraith was back. But this time, he wasn't fighting for clients or money or reputation. He was fighting for the only thing that truly mattered. Keeping 4 young lives safe from a world that wanted to use them as tools. Sean retrieved his cleaning cart and resumed his rounds. But his mind was already tactical planning. Threat assessment. Security vulnerabilities. Escape routes. Counter-surveillance. The janitor's uniform stayed on. But underneath, the Wraith was calculating how to win a battle where losing meant losing everything that mattered. 5 days. He could do this. He had to. The morning sunlight filtered through the kitchen window of Sean's modest apartment as Riley poured syrup over her pancakes with the focused concentration she applied to everything. At almost 8 years old, she had her mother's methodical nature and Sean's quiet intensity, a combination that both comforted and worried him. So, Riley said, cutting her pancakes into precise squares. Mrs. Patterson said you came home really late. Did something happen at work? Did something happen at work? Sean had been dreading this conversation since he'd walked through the door at 3 in the morning. He'd rehearsed various versions, trying to find the balance between truth and protection. Riley deserved honesty, but she also deserved her innocence. Something did happen, Sean said, sitting across from her with his coffee. I helped some people who were in trouble. 2 girls about your age. Riley's eyes brightened with interest. What kind of trouble? Scary trouble. Some bad men were trying to hurt them, and I stopped it. Like a superhero? Riley's fork paused midway to her mouth. More like a regular person who knew what to do. But here's the thing, sweetie. Those girls' mom wants to thank me properly. She invited us to her house today for lunch. The girls will be there, and I thought maybe you'd like to meet them. Riley's expression cycled through several emotions: excitement, uncertainty, curiosity. Are they nice? They seem very nice. One of them loves math like you do. The other one is really smart about people and situations. What are their names? Harper and Skylar. They're twins. Riley's excitement won out over uncertainty. I've never met twins before. Are they identical? They look identical, but they're different people. You'll see. Sean took a breath, preparing for the harder part. Riley, there's something else. The reason those bad men were after Harper and Skylar is because their mom has something important that other people want. For the next few days, while their mom makes sure everything is safe, we're going to spend time with them. Help keep them company. Riley's intelligence shone through her young face. Is it dangerous? Are the bad men going to come back? Sean had promised himself he'd never lie to his daughter. It could be. But I'm very good at keeping people safe. That's actually what I used to do, before you were born. I protected people who needed help. Why did you stop? Because when you were born, I decided being your dad was more important than anything else. And it still is. Sean reached across the table to take her small hand. But these girls need help right now, and I'm the person who can give it. Does that make sense? Riley nodded slowly, processing this information with her characteristic thoroughness. If you're protecting them, does that mean someone might try to hurt us too? To get to them? The question was so perceptive, so far beyond her years, that Sean felt his heart clench. That's why we're going to stay at their house for a few days. It's very secure, with lots of security, and I'll be there the whole time. We'll be safer together than apart. Okay, Riley said simply. Then, after a moment, Daddy, are you scared? Sean considered the question honestly. A little. Being scared means you understand the danger. But I'm also confident, because I know how to handle this. Being scared and being prepared aren't opposites, they work together. Riley seemed satisfied with this answer. She returned to her pancakes, then looked up with sudden concern. Can I bring my volcano project? It's due next week, and I still need to paint the lava flow. Absolutely. We'll pack whatever you need. 2 hours later, Sean pulled his aging sedan up to the gates of Windmere Estates, an exclusive gated community on the outskirts of Ashford. The security guard checked his ID against a list, then waved them through with professional courtesy that didn't quite hide the extra scrutiny. Vanessa's residence was at the end of a private cul-de-sac, a modern 2-story home with clean lines, large windows, and landscaping that somehow managed to provide both beauty and clear sight lines. Sean's tactical eye immediately noted the discreet cameras, the reinforced doors, the fact that every approach could be monitored from inside. Professional setup. Good, but not perfect. He'd already spotted 3 vulnerabilities someone with his training could exploit. Riley pressed her face to the car window. Wow, this is their house. Their mom is a CEO. She runs a big technology company. She must be really smart. She is. And so are her daughters. Be yourself, and they'll like you just fine. The front door opened before they reached it. Vanessa stood there in casual clothes, jeans, and a sweater, looking far more approachable than the corporate executive from last night. Behind her, Harper and Skylar peered around with undisguised curiosity. "Sean, welcome." Vanessa's smile was genuine but strained around the edges. "And you must be Riley. Your father has told us about you." Riley, suddenly shy, held Sean's hand tighter. "Hi," Skylar stepped forward, offering a friendly smile. "I'm Skylar. That's Harper. We're really glad you're here. Do you like board games? We have about 50 of them." "I like games," Riley said cautiously. "Especially ones with strategy." "Then you'll love Captain," Harper said. "It's all about resource management and probability. Come on, we'll show you." The twins led Riley inside with the easy hospitality of people used to making guests comfortable. Sean watched his daughter's posture relax as the girls chatted, showing her around the spacious living room. Once the girls were occupied, Vanessa led Sean to her home office, a room that looked casual but, Sean noticed, was positioned at the home's most secure interior point, with reinforced walls and a door that locked from inside. "We need to talk about the real situation," Vanessa said, closing the door. "Last night I gave you the overview. Here's the complete picture." She pulled up a file on her computer. The Novak Syndicate was hired by a shell corporation called Meridian Holdings. It took my security team all night to trace it, but we finally found the real client. Sean studied the corporate structure chart she displayed. "Who?" "Elijah Douglas, CEO of Titan Communications. My biggest competitor." Vanessa's voice was tight with anger. "He doesn't want my encryption technology because it's revolutionary. He wants it because if Apex releases it as open source, his company's proprietary encryption systems become worthless overnight. Titan would lose billions. So he's trying to steal it first, claim it as his own development, or prevent it from being released at all. If something happens to me and my daughters, the announcement gets delayed indefinitely. Apex's board would likely shelve the project entirely, too afraid of the liability." Vanessa pulled up another file. "But here's what I didn't tell you last night. Elijah Douglas doesn't just run a communications company. He has connections to organized crime, specifically money laundering operations that use encrypted communications. My technology threatens both his legitimate business and his criminal enterprises." Sean absorbed this information, his tactical mind already adjusting threat assessments. "So we're not just dealing with corporate espionage. We're dealing with someone who has criminal resources and is desperate enough to use them." "Exactly. The Novak Syndicate was just his first attempt testing our defenses, seeing how we respond. Now that he knows you're involved, he'll research you, find out about the Wraith, and then he'll escalate." "How much does he know about Harper's memory?" "Too much. Someone inside Apex leaked information about the day I brought the girls to the lab. Elijah knows Harper saw the encryption algorithms, knows she can reproduce them." Vanessa's composure cracked slightly. "That's why I needed you, Sean. My security team is good at defending static positions, but you understand how predators think, how they hunt." "4 days now," Sean corrected. "The announcement is in 4 days?" "Saturday morning, international broadcast. Once the encryption is public, Harper's memory becomes irrelevant. Until then, she's the most valuable target in the country." Sean moved to the window, studying the property's layout through the glass. "Your security team, how many?" 6 operatives, rotating shifts. Ex-police, private military contractors. They're competent. Competent isn't enough against someone with Elijah's resources. I need to brief them, establish new protocols, identify every possible infiltration route." Sean turned back to her. "And I need complete honesty. What else haven't you told me?" Vanessa hesitated, then sighed. "There's one more thing. The International Encryption Standards Committee, they're not just announcing my technology on Saturday. They're awarding me the Turing Prize for it. Global recognition, media coverage, government officials attending. Maximum visibility. Which makes Saturday the last possible day for Elijah to act, Sean said grimly. After that, the spotlight is too bright. Anything that happens to you or your daughters becomes international news. Yes, so he'll move before Saturday. Probably in the next 48 hours, when he thinks we're still scrambling to adjust security. Vanessa met Sean's eyes. That's the real timeline. Not 4 days of protection. 48 hours where someone with unlimited resources and criminal connections will throw everything at us to get Harper. Then we need to be smarter, faster, and more ruthless than he is, Sean said. I'll need detailed backgrounds on all your security team. Complete layouts of this property and any other location you've considered using. Every piece of communication technology Elijah's company produces, so I know what surveillance capabilities he has. And I need to contact someone I swore I'd never talk to again. Who? Someone who knows the criminal underworld even better than I do. Someone who can tell us exactly how Elijah will come at us. Sean pulled out his phone, staring at a contact he'd kept buried in encrypted storage for 3 years. My old partner. The only person I trusted completely when I was the Wraith. Through the office door, they could hear the girls laughing. Rayleigh's voice, bright with delight, saying something about volcanoes. Harper explaining geological processes. Skylar suggesting they build a whole DIORAM a normal, innocent. Everything Sean had wanted for Riley, and everything he'd have to defend against someone who saw those girls, not as people, but as tools to be acquired or eliminated. Make the call, Vanessa said quietly. Do whatever you need to do. I'll handle my security team. Sean nodded and stepped outside, phone in hand, about to resurrect a connection he'd thought was buried forever. The Wraith was back. And this time, the stakes were higher than they'd ever been. The phone rang 4 times before a familiar voice answered. Rough with surprise and something that might have been emotion. Ghost Protocol 77 Alpha, the man said instead of hello. Confirm identity. Phantom Echo 99 Omega, Sean replied, speaking the countersign he'd memorized years ago. It's me, Parker. Silence. Then, Wraith. Holy hell. I thought you were dead. I was. For 3 years. Now I'm not. Sean watched through the window as Riley helped the twins arrange volcano project supplies on the dining room table. I need information. Fast. Elijah Douglas, Titan Communications. What are his criminal connections? Parker Drake had been Sean's information specialist during his years as the Wraith, the person who researched targets, identified threats, and provided the intelligence that kept them both alive. When Sean had disappeared, Parker had respected the silence. No calls, no attempts to locate him, just acceptance that the Wraith had his reasons. Douglas is bad news, Parker said after a pause. Money laundering for Eastern European syndicates, encrypted communication services for organized crime, blackmail operations using corporate espionage. He's basically a legitimate businessman on the surface and a crime boss underneath. Why are you asking? Because he's targeting someone I'm protecting. Someone with daughters. Parker's voice sharpened. You came out of retirement for a protection job? Wraith, that's not like you. What's really going on? Sean made a decision. Parker had earned trust over years of partnership. I have a daughter now. Almost 8. 3 years ago, when I disappeared, it was because I became a father. I wanted her to have a normal life away from everything we did. A daughter. Parker's voice softened. Congratulations. What's her name? Riley. She's brilliant and kind, and she deserves better than to be connected to my past. But last night, I intervened in a kidnapping attempt. Used my real identity to scare off the attackers. Now Elijah Douglas knows the Wraith is back, and Riley's exposed. So you're protecting her by protecting his actual targets. Keep the attention on the primary job while securing your own family as collateral benefit. Smart. Parker's keyboard clicked in the background. I'm pulling Douglas's files now. Give me the situation overview. Sean explained quickly. Vanessa's encryption technology. Harper's eidetic memory. The 4-day timeline until the public announcement. Parker listened without interruption, then let out a low whistle. That's a high-value target. Douglas will throw serious resources at this. I'm seeing connections to at least 3 criminal organizations that could provide tactical teams. The Novak Syndicate you already encountered. The Petrov Brotherhood Russian operators, very efficient. And the Strand Network corporate mercenaries who specialize in technology theft. So we could be facing multiple simultaneous attacks from different angles. Exactly. Douglas probably hired all 3, told each one they're the only team, and plans to reward whoever succeeds. Creates competition, increases his odds. Parker paused. Wraith, this is beyond a single operator. Even you. You need backup. I have the client security team. 6 operators. Not enough. Not against 3 professional teams. Parker's voice carried the weight of someone calculating impossible odds. But I might have a solution. Remember the network? Sean did. The network was an informal group of former protectors like himself, people who'd left the business but maintained loose contact in case of emergencies. They disbanded when I left. They stayed connected. Underground, quiet, but still there. If you need them, I can make calls. No, this stays small and contained. The more people involved, the more risk of exposure. Sean watched Riley demonstrate volcano eruption physics to the twins. Just keep feeding me intelligence. Anything on Douglas's movements, any chatter about contracts on these targets, any hint of when and how the attack will come. I'll monitor everything. But Wraith, be careful. Douglas doesn't just want that technology. According to some very dark rumors, he wants Vanessa Cruz personally eliminated. Something about her testimony before Congress last year that nearly exposed his money laundering operations. This isn't just business for him. It's revenge. After ending the call, Sean returned inside to find the girls had migrated to the living room, where Riley was explaining her volcano project design with animated enthusiasm. See, most people just make the mountain and pour vinegar in, Riley said, gesturing at her paper-mâché creation. But I'm adding a chamber system that creates multiple eruptions with different heights. It's about pressure distribution and fluid dynamics. Harper was watching with fascinated attention. That's brilliant. You're using the same principles as hydraulic systems. Exactly. My dad taught me that everything is connected: science, math, engineering. You just have to see the patterns. Skylar grinned at Sean as he entered. Your daughter's going to win the science fair. Harper already ran probability calculations. 92% confidence. Don't tell her that, Sean said, smiling. She'll get overconfident. I heard, Riley called. And I'm not overconfident if the math supports it. Vanessa appeared from the kitchen, carrying lemonade and snacks. Your daughter is delightful. The twins haven't been this animated with someone new in months. They're good for each other, Sean observed. Riley doesn't have many friends at school. Being smart sometimes makes kids different in ways that are hard. I know exactly what you mean. Vanessa set down the refreshments, watching the girls interact. Harper and Skylar are homeschooled partly because of security, but also because regular classrooms didn't work. The other students either resented their abilities or tried to use them. That's terrible, Sean said, meaning it. It's reality. Exceptional people often live isolated lives. Vanessa looked at him directly. You must understand that. The Wraith was exceptional at what he did. That kind of skill requires isolation, doesn't it? It did, until Riley. Sean's voice softened. She taught me that connection matters more than capability, that being loved is worth more than being feared. And yet here you are, using those feared capabilities again, to protect the people I love. There's a difference. Sean met her eyes. I'm not the wraith anymore, Vanessa. I'm a father who happens to have specific skills. That man who moved through criminal underworlds like a ghost, he's gone. What's left is someone who'll do whatever it takes to keep 4 girls safe. Something in Vanessa's expression shifted, a wall coming down slightly. I've been alone with this for so long. Running Apex, raising the twins, managing the constant security threats. No one understands the weight of it, being solely responsible for people who depend on you completely. I understand, Sean said quietly. Every single day, Riley depends on me to make the right choices. To keep her safe while letting her grow. To be strong enough to protect her, but soft enough to comfort her. It's terrifying and wonderful, and the most important thing I'll ever do. Yes, Vanessa breathed. Exactly that. They stood together, watching their daughters laugh over volcano designs and board game strategies. And something unspoken passed between them. Recognition, understanding, the beginning of trust. Built not on professional capability, but shared parental devotion. Sean? Vanessa said after a moment. Whatever happens in the next 4 days, whatever we have to face, thank you. For seeing my daughters as people worth protecting, not just targets to defend. They're remarkable young people. Both of them. Harper's intelligence, Skylar's emotional intuition. They're going to change the world someday. If they get the chance to grow up. They will, Sean said with quiet certainty. Because I don't fail when it matters. That evening, Sean conducted a security briefing with Vanessa's protection team. They were professional, experienced, and clearly skeptical about taking direction from a janitor. This is Seth Newman, Vanessa introduced the team leader. A former police tactical commander in his early 40s. He's been heading my security for 2 years. Seth sized up Sean with obvious doubt. Ma'am, with respect, I don't understand why we need outside consultation. Our protocols are solid. Your protocols are predictable, Sean said bluntly. You're defending this location like it's a static target. Perimeter sensors, patrol patterns, response procedures, all standard. All exactly what someone planning an attack would expect and plan around. What do you suggest? Seth's tone was challenging. Sean pulled out a tablet, displaying a map of the property he'd sketched from memory. Your eastern approach has a blind spot where the tree line meets the fence. Your patrol pattern has a 6-minute gap at shift change. Your safe room is in the obvious location center of the house, reinforced, 1 entrance. Tactically sound but completely predictable. Tactically sound but completely predictable. Seth's expression shifted from skeptical to attentive. You mapped that in 3 hours? I mapped it in 30 minutes. Spent the rest of the time identifying 12 more vulnerabilities. Sean met the man's eyes. I'm not here to replace you or question your competence. I'm here because the people coming for those girls think like predators, and I used to hunt predators. Different skill set, same goal. Seth considered this, then nodded slowly. What do you need? First, we change the patrol patterns, random intervals instead of regular schedules. Second, we create false vulnerabilities that are actually traps. Third, we prepare for infiltration attempts during high-probability windows 3 to 5 a.m. Shift changes, anytime the girls are visible through windows. Fourth, we establish multiple fallback positions instead of relying on one safe room. That's a complete security overhaul in 4 days. We have 48 hours, Sean corrected. After that, the attack comes. I guarantee it. By midnight, new protocols were established, security cameras repositioned, and the protection team was drilling the revised procedures. Sean checked on Riley one last time. She was asleep in the guest room. Mr. Rabbit tucked under her arm, completely peaceful. He stood in the doorway, watching her breathe, and made a silent promise. Whatever came, whoever threatened them, he would not let violence touch his daughter. The Wraith had been retired. But a father's protection had no retirement clause. The attack came at 4:17 a.m., exactly when Sean had predicted. He was already awake, watching security feeds from Vanessa's office, when motion sensors triggered along the eastern fence line. Not the obvious approach too easy to defend, but the secondary position where trees created natural cover and electronics sometimes gave false readings. "Seth," Sean spoke into his radio. "Eastern sector, 3 signatures. Could be animals, but the movement pattern is wrong." "Copy." Team 2 responding. Sean switched camera angles, watching 2 of Seth's operators move toward the breach point with proper tactical spacing. "Good discipline," he noted. But something felt off about this approach. Too obvious, too expected. Then he saw thermal signatures along the western fence, barely visible through the camera's ambient light filter. 2 figures, low and fast, already over the fence and moving toward the house. "Diversion," Sean snapped into the radio. "Eastern approach is a feint. Real attack western side. 2 operators inbound to the house. Seth, pull back your eastern team but keep them visible. Let the attackers think we're falling for it." "Understood." "Where do you want me?" "Kitchen entrance. They'll try their first closest to the bedrooms. Easiest door to breach quietly." Sean was already moving, his body remembering the fluid economy of motion that had made him the Wraith. "I'll take the sunroom. We'll have them in a crossfire if they make it inside." He moved through the dark house with practiced silence, checking that Vanessa had secured the girls in the revised safe room, not the obvious one in the center, but a disguised panic room built into the basement storage area. Then he positioned himself behind the sunroom's large bookshelf, weapon drawn, breathing controlled. The western attackers reached the kitchen door. Sean watched through a reflection in the glass as one produced lockpicking tools while the other provided cover, weapon sweeping for threats. Professional. Efficient, but not as patient as they should be. The lock clicked. The door eased open. Both figures entered in rapid succession, night vision goggles giving them alien silhouettes. They made it 3 steps before Seth emerged from the pantry, weapon trained. "Drop your weapons, now." The attackers spun, but Sean was already moving from the sunroom, coming up behind them. "Do what he says. You're surrounded, outmaneuvered, and you're not getting paid enough to die for Elijah Douglas." The nearest attacker started to raise his weapon. Sean fired not at the man, but at the weapon itself. The precise shot knocked the gun from his grip, sending it clattering across the tile. "Next one goes center mass," Sean said calmly. "Your armor might stop it, might not. Want to find out?" Both attackers raised their hands slowly. Seth's team emerged from other positions, securing them with zip ties and efficient searches that produced an impressive arsenal of weapons and communication devices. "Petrov Brotherhood," Seth said, examining one attacker's tattoo. "Russian operators. Top tier." "Second tier," Sean corrected, scrolling through a captured phone. "First tier would have spotted the trap. These are competent but overconfident." He found what he was looking for, a message thread showing coordination with 2 other teams. And they're not alone. The Eastern Diversion Team was Novak Syndicate. There's a 3rd team holding back, probably Strand Network, waiting to see how the first 2 assaults play out. Seth looked grim. Multiple teams, coordinated attack. Douglas is throwing everything at this. Which means we wounded him but didn't stop him. Sean checked the time, 4:47 a.m. He'll regroup, revise tactics, come at us harder. We bought maybe 12 hours. Vanessa emerged from the safe room once Seth gave the all clear, the 3 girls behind her. Harper and Skylar looked frightened, but contained. Riley, however, was studying the zip-tied attackers with intense curiosity. "Daddy, you shot the gun out of his hand," Riley said. "That's really hard. They only do that in movies because it's..." Almost impossible to hit something that small while people are moving. I got lucky, Sean lied, not wanting to explain years of weapons training. No, you didn't. I watched through the security monitor. You aimed for exactly 2 seconds, compensated for his turning motion, and fired the instant you had a clean angle. That's skill, not luck. Harper looked at Riley with new respect. You analyze tactical situations? I analyze everything, Riley said. My dad taught me that understanding how things work makes them less scary. Vanessa pulled Sean aside while Seth's team processed the captured attackers. They're going to come back harder, aren't they? Yes, next time won't be a stealth infiltration. It'll be overwhelming force enough operators that even perfect defense can't stop them all. Sean kept his voice low. We need to change locations. This house is compromised. They've mapped it, tested it, learned our response patterns. Where would we go? Anywhere I own. Douglas knows about, which is why we don't go somewhere you own. Sean made a decision he'd been avoiding. I have a backup location. Somewhere from my old life that's off every grid, unknown to anyone except one person I trust. It's not luxurious, but it's secure. A safe house from your Wraith days. A place I prepared for the day someone from my past came looking for revenge. I never thought I'd use it to protect someone else's family, but here we are. Sean checked his phone. Parker had sent an update confirming that Douglas was mobilizing additional resources. We moved tonight, after dark. Quiet departure, no security convoy, nothing that screams protection detail. We become invisible. The announcement is in 3 days. Can we stay invisible that long? We have to. Because the alternative is being visible when Douglas sends his final assault. Sean met her eyes. Trust me on this. I've kept people alive in worse situations. That evening, as they prepared for the relocation, Sean found Riley packing her bag with characteristic thoroughness, clothes folded precisely, her volcano project wrapped carefully in bubble wrap, a book about geology tucked into a side pocket. Adventure, she said when she noticed him watching. Like you said, we're on an adventure. Are you scared? Riley considered the question with her usual seriousness. A little. But you're here, so mostly I'm okay. And Harper and Skylar are nice. Skylar said I could be an honorary triplet. How do you feel about that? I like it. I always wanted siblings. Riley looked up at him. Daddy, is this going to be our life now? Running and hiding and people trying to hurt us? No, Sean said firmly, kneeling to her level. This is temporary. A few more days, then everything goes back to normal. Better than normal, because you'll have new friends. Promise? Sean thought about all the variables he couldn't control, all the ways this could go wrong. But he looked at his daughter's trusting face and made the only promise that mattered. I promise. Whatever it takes, I'll keep you safe and get us back to our normal life. Riley hugged him tight. I believe you. As darkness fell, they loaded into an unmarked van Seth had acquired, nothing fancy, nothing traceable. The girls sat together in the back, already playing a quiet word game. Vanessa rode beside Sean in front, navigating by his directions. Where exactly are we going? She asked. Somewhere no one will think to look, Sean said, turning onto a highway that led away from Ashford's lights. Somewhere the Wraith prepared for the end of the world. Behind them, the city's glow faded. Ahead, darkness and uncertainty waited, but Sean had faced worse odds with less preparation. This time he had advantages, experience, determination, and 4 people depending on him who deserved every ounce of skill he possessed. The Wraith was back. And he was done playing defense. It was time to hunt the hunter. The safe house was a converted warehouse in an industrial district 40 miles from Ashford. Anonymous brick walls, reinforced doors, and windows that looked ordinary but were bulletproof. Sean had purchased it under a false identity 6 years ago, before Riley was born, when paranoia was just good planning. Inside, The space was surprisingly comfortable. Sean had furnished it sparingly, but practically sleeping areas separated by privacy screens, a kitchen stocked with long-term supplies, entertainment for extended stays. Most importantly, surveillance equipment that monitored every approach and a tunnel exit that led to the neighboring building. "It's like a secret base," Skylar said, exploring with wide eyes. "You really built this yourself?" "Over 2 years," Sean confirmed. "Preparing for threats that never came. Until now." Riley was already settling in, arranging her volcano project on a workbench. Harper joined her immediately, suggesting improvements to the pressure chamber system. Skylar gravitated toward the surveillance monitors, fascinated by the multiple camera angles. Vanessa pulled Sean aside. "How long can we stay here?" "As long as needed, but we're not just hiding." Sean showed her files Parker had sent detailed intelligence on Douglas's operations. "We're going on offense. I've identified 3 of his money laundering fronts. If we leak this information to the right authorities, we can distract him, force him to defend his empire instead of attacking us. That's risky. He'll know we're behind it. He already knows. Might as well make him pay attention in multiple directions." The attack on Riley came 16 hours later. And it didn't come at the safe house. Sean's phone rang at noon. Mrs. Patterson, his neighbor, her voice shaking with fear. "Sean, there are men at your apartment. They broke down the door. They're looking for Riley. I called the police, but these men, they're asking about her school, her friends, where you might take her." Sean's blood turned to ice. "Are you safe? Did they see you?" "I'm in my apartment. They don't know I watch Riley." "But Sean, they're tearing your place apart, and one of them said they'd find her one way or another." After hanging up, Sean immediately called Seth, who confirmed police were responding to the break-in, but the attackers had fled. "Property damage, threats made to neighbors, but no casualties." "They're escalating," Seth said, "going after your home directly, trying to intimidate you into giving up the girl's location." Vanessa overheard and went pale. "This is my fault. They attacked your home because you're protecting us." "No," Sean said firmly. "This is Elijah Douglas's fault. He chose violence. He chose to target innocent people. Don't take responsibility for his evil." But Riley had heard everything. She stood in the doorway, her young face struggling to process that their home, her home, with all her things, her memories of her mother, had been violated. "Daddy, are they going to hurt Mrs. Patterson?" "No, baby. The police are watching the building now. Mrs. Patterson is safe. But our apartment isn't safe anymore." It wasn't a question. Riley understood. "Not right now. But we'll fix it. Replace what's broken. Make it home again." Sean pulled her close. "Things can be replaced. You can't. That's why we're here." Harper approached quietly. "Riley, this happened because we're here. Because my mom's technology made us targets, and you got caught in it. It's not your fault," Riley said with surprising firmness. "Bad people do bad things. That's not because of you. It's because of them." Skylar joined the group. "We're all in this together now. Like sisters. Sisters protect each other." Watching his daughter find strength in new friendships, even while processing trauma, Sean felt his resolve harden to steel. Douglas had made this personal, had attacked not just professionally but vindictively, targeting a home, frightening an elderly woman, trying to break Sean's spirit by threatening everything he loved. Big mistake. That evening, Sean made a call, not to Parker this time, but to someone else from his past, a federal prosecutor he'd once provided evidence to, someone who owed him. "I need you to fast-track an investigation," Sean said. "Elijah Douglas, Titan Communications. I'm sending you evidence of money laundering, corporate espionage, and conspiracy to commit kidnapping. Enough to get warrants. Wraith, this is highly irregular. So is targeting an 8-year-old's home. Help me, and I'll give you the case of your career. Ignore me, and whatever happens next is on your conscience." The prosecutor agreed to expedite the investigation, not enough to stop Douglas immediately, but enough to pressure him, to make him vulnerable. Vanessa watched from across the room. You're really going after him. I'm eliminating the threat permanently. Because protecting isn't enough anymore. We need to win. Friday morning, 24 hours before the encryption announcement, Elijah Douglas made his move, but not with violence, with lawyers. A court order arrived via email. Emergency injunction blocking the encryption announcement, claiming Apex Technologies had stolen proprietary Titan Communications research. The hearing was scheduled for that afternoon, requiring Vanessa's presence or automatic judgment in Douglas's favor. It's a trap, Seth said immediately. He wants you exposed, vulnerable, outside our secure location. Of course it's a trap, Vanessa replied, reading the injunction details. But if I don't appear, he wins by default. The announcement gets blocked, possibly for months. Everything we've endured becomes meaningless. Sean studied the court order. The hearing is at the federal courthouse downtown. High security. Public location. Lots of witnesses. Douglas can't make an obvious move there without exposing himself. But getting there and back gives him opportunities. Seth countered. Then we control those opportunities. Sean looked at Vanessa. You go to the hearing. Fight this publicly. On record. With media present. Meanwhile, I make sure Douglas is too distracted to spring whatever trap he's planning. How? By giving him a target he wants even more than you. Sean's smile was cold. The Wraith himself. 2 hours later. Sean walked into Titan Communications headquarters, wearing a visitor badge and carrying a briefcase. Security tried to stop him at the executive floor, but he simply showed them a business card blank, except for a single symbol, the mark of the Wraith. Tell Douglas, I'm here to negotiate, Sean said calmly. He'll want to take this meeting. 5 minutes later, he sat across from Elijah Douglas in a luxurious office overlooking Ashford's skyline. Douglas was younger than expected, maybe 45, with the aggressive confidence of someone who'd built an empire through ruthlessness. The legendary Wraith, Douglas said, pouring expensive bourbon. I thought you were dead. I was retired. You brought me back. By trying to acquire valuable assets? That's just business. Those assets are people. A woman and her daughters. And a janitor's daughter whose only crime was being my family. Sean didn't touch the offered drink. You crossed a line when you attacked my home. I don't know what you're talking about. Douglas's denial was casual, unconvincing. Yes, you do. Just like you know about the federal warrants being prepared right now. Money laundering, corporate espionage, conspiracy. I've given prosecutors everything they need. Sean leaned forward. Here's what happens next. You drop the injunction. You call off your attack teams. You leave Vanessa Cruz and her daughters alone permanently. Do this, and I stay retired. The evidence I've gathered stays private. And if I refuse, then I stop being the Wraith who protects people and become the Wraith who ends threats. Sean's voice carried absolute conviction. I know where you live, where your money is hidden, which operations can't survive scrutiny. I can dismantle everything you've built without ever raising my voice. Or I can make you disappear so completely that even your criminal friends won't find the pieces. Douglas's confidence wavered. You're bluffing. Am I? Sean pulled out his phone, showing photos Douglas's secret accounts, his meeting locations with Novak syndicate leaders, his communications arranging the attacks. I've spent 3 days learning everything about you. Your empire rests on secrets. I'm offering you a chance to keep them secret. The office door burst open. Federal agents, led by the prosecutor Sean had contacted, swarmed in with weapons drawn and warrants ready. Elijah Douglas, you're under arrest for conspiracy, money laundering, and corporate espionage, the prosecutor announced. Douglas stared at Sean with dawning rage. You set me up. This whole meeting was recorded. Every word, Sean confirmed, standing. Including your non-denial about attacking my home and your implicit admission to the conspiracy. Congratulations, you just confessed to federal crimes. As agents handcuffed Douglas and read him his rights, Sean walked out. His phone buzzed text from Vanessa. Injunction dismissed. Judge reviewed your evidence package. We're clear for tomorrow's announcement. 3 girls were safe. 1 man's empire was crumbling. And the Wraith could finally return to being just Sean Douglas, janitor and father. Almost. The Turing Prize ceremony on Saturday morning should have been the happy ending. Vanessa stood on stage, receiving international recognition, while her encryption technology was simultaneously released as open source to the world. Harper's perfect memory became irrelevant. The information she carried was now freely available to everyone. The threat should have ended there. It didn't. The attack came during the reception because some of Douglas's hired teams operated on old contracts and didn't care that their employer was in federal custody. 4 men entered through catering access, weapons concealed, moving toward where the girls stood together near the refreshment table. Sean saw them first. He'd been watching the crowd with the hypervigilance that never fully left him, and something in their movement patterns screamed wrong. Too purposeful, too coordinated, eyes scanning for specific targets. He moved before conscious thought, positioning himself between the attackers and the girls. Harper, Skylar, Riley, move toward your mother, now. The girls responded instantly, the drills they'd practiced activating automatically. They walked quickly but didn't run, didn't create panic, just smoothly relocated toward where Vanessa stood with federal security. The lead attacker saw Sean blocking their path and smiled coldly. The janitor, step aside. This doesn't concern you. Everything about those girls concerns me. Sean's posture was relaxed, unthreatening, but his eyes calculated distances and angles. Walk away. Your employer is in custody. You're not getting paid for this. We're getting paid by someone else now. Someone who doesn't like loose ends. The Petrov Brotherhood, Sean realized. They'd taken a new contract, probably from someone in Douglas's criminal network seeking revenge, which meant negotiation was pointless. The attacker reached for his concealed weapon. Sean was faster. He grabbed a champagne bottle from a nearby table and threw it not at the attacker but at the overhead light fixture. Glass shattered, creating a momentary distraction. Sean closed the distance in that second, his hand striking the man's wrist before the weapon cleared his jacket. A quick twist, a pressure point, and the attacker was on his knees, disarmed. The second attacker drew his weapon, but federal security was already responding, agents converging from multiple directions. Realizing they were outmaneuvered and outnumbered, the 4 men attempted to flee. They didn't make it to the exits. Seth's team, positioned throughout the venue as a precaution, intercepted them. Within 2 minutes, all 4 were in custody, and the ceremony continued with minimal disruption. Most attendees never even realized violence had been attempted. Vanessa found Sean afterward, the girls clustered around him protectively. It's over, she said, but her voice carried a question. It's over, Sean confirmed. Douglas is facing 20 years minimum. His criminal network is being rolled up by federal task forces. The remaining contractors will realize there's no money in pursuing this, no employer to pay them, no point in continuing. And the Wraith? Goes back into retirement. Permanently this time. Riley tugged his sleeve. Daddy, can we go home now? Our real home? Sean thought about their apartment, cleaned and repaired by Vanessa's people, waiting for them. About the life they'd built there, interrupted but not destroyed. Yeah, baby. We can go home. What about Harper and Skylar? Riley looked at the twins with concern. Will we still see them? Vanessa smiled, the first genuinely relaxed expression Sean had seen from her. I was hoping we could arrange regular visits. Maybe the girls could attend the same school, have normal playdates, be actual friends instead of people thrown together by danger. I'd like that, Sean said. And Vanessa, if you ever need security consultation, legitimate protection planning, I know who to call. She held out her hand, and when Sean shook it, The gesture felt like more than professional courtesy. Like the beginning of something neither of them had expected, but both might welcome. That evening, back in their apartment with everything restored, Riley worked on her volcano project at the kitchen table while Sean made dinner. Normal, peaceful, home. "Daddy," Riley said as she painted lava flows, "I'm glad we helped Harper and Skylar, even though scary things happened." "Me too. And I'm glad you were the Wraith, that you knew how to protect people. But I'm more glad you're just my dad now." Sean set down his cooking spatula and hugged his daughter tight. "Being your dad is the most important thing I'll ever be." The Wraith was gone, retired for the final time. Sean Douglas remained janitor, father, friend to people who needed him, and guardian of the normal life he'd built from the ashes of his dangerous past. Sometimes the greatest victory wasn't defeating enemies. It was returning home to the people who made home matter. 3 months had passed since the Turing Prize ceremony, and life had settled into a rhythm that felt both familiar and wonderfully new. Sean still worked as night janitor at Ashford Tower. He discovered he actually enjoyed the work, the quiet solitude, the satisfaction of making spaces clean and functional. But now the job came with a difference. He wasn't hiding anymore. The other janitors knew he'd done something heroic involving the CEO whose company occupied floors 12 through 15. Security guards treated him with quiet respect. Even the executives who worked late sometimes stopped to thank him for keeping their building safe in ways that went beyond mopping floors. But the biggest change was waiting at home. Their apartment had been fully restored, but it felt different now, fuller, louder, more alive. 3 evenings a week, Harper and Skylar came for dinner and homework sessions. Weekends often meant sleepovers, where 3 girls crowded into Riley's room, their laughter and whispered conversations drifting through the walls until late into the night. Tonight was Friday, which meant Vanessa would arrive at 6 to pick up the twins, and she'd inevitably stay for dinner because the girls would insist and Sean would pretend to be surprised even though he'd started cooking for 5 instead of 4. "Riley, can you help me understand this calculus problem?" Harper called from the living room where all 3 girls were sprawled across the floor, textbooks and notebooks scattered around them. "The derivative is confusing me." "You're in 5th grade, Sean said from the kitchen, stirring pasta sauce. "Since when do 5th graders do calculus?" "Since Harper got bored with regular math," Skylar explained. "She's teaching herself college-level mathematics from online courses. It's actually pretty normal for her." Riley was already leaning over Harper's notebook, explaining the chain rule with the patient clarity of someone who genuinely loved helping others learn. "See, you're overthinking it. Just break down each component and apply the derivative to each part separately, then combine them." "Oh," Harper's face lit up with understanding. "That makes so much more sense. Thank you." Sean watched them work together and felt something warm settle in his chest. Riley had blossomed over the past 3 months, more confident, more social, happier than he'd seen her since Jessica died. Having the twins in her life had given her something he could never provide alone. Sisters who understood her intelligence, who challenged her thinking, who made being smart feel normal instead of isolating. Skylar looked up from her own homework, an essay about heroism in literature. "Mr. Sean, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "In my essay, I'm writing about how heroes are just regular people who make brave choices. Like you. You were just a janitor who decided to help when he saw people in danger." "I'm still just a janitor," Sean corrected gently. "No, you're not." Skylar's voice was serious. "You're the person who saved us, who protected us, who taught us that being scared and being brave aren't opposites, they work together. That's not just anything." Before Sean could respond, the apartment door opened and Vanessa entered, carrying bags from their favorite Thai restaurant. "I know I said I'd pick up the girls, but I thought we could all have dinner together, unless that's presumptuous?" "It's perfect," Sean said, and meant it. They'd been dancing around whatever was developing between them for 3 months now. Conversations that lasted hours after the girls fell asleep. Shared looks that communicated more than words. Moments where Vanessa's hand would brush his arm, and neither would pull away quickly. But neither had named it, acknowledged it, taken the step from friendship into something more. Maybe because they were both cautious people who'd been hurt before. Maybe because they wanted to be certain before involving the girls. Maybe because some things were worth moving slowly toward, building properly instead of rushing. After dinner, while the girls played a board game in the living room, Sean and Vanessa cleaned up together a routine they'd fallen into naturally over weeks of shared meals. The girls started Oakwood Elementary together next week. Vanessa said, drying a plate. Harper and Skylar are nervous about attending regular school after being homeschooled for so long. Riley will look out for them. She's already planned their lunch table seating arrangement for optimal social dynamics and minimal exposure to the mean kids in the back corner. Vanessa laughed. Your daughter is extraordinary. You've raised an amazing young person, Sean. You've done the same. Harper and Skylar are brilliant and kind and resilient. That's all you. It's us now, isn't it? Vanessa set down the dish towel, turning to face him fully. The four of them, they're already family. They introduce each other as sisters to anyone who'll listen, which means we're family too, in whatever form that takes. Sean met her eyes, seeing his own uncertainty and hope reflected there. I've been alone with Riley for so long, building a life around just the two of us. The idea of expanding that, of letting someone else in, it terrifies me. Me too. After my husband left when the twins were babies, I promised myself I'd never depend on anyone again. I'd be strong enough, successful enough, independent enough to not need a partner. Vanessa's voice softened. But the past 3 months, watching you with the girls, learning who you are beyond the capable protector, I've realized something. Not needing someone and not wanting someone are completely different things. And what do you want? Sean asked quietly. I want this. These dinners, these conversations, this feeling of coming home to people who matter. I want the girls to have what they've already created. A family that chose each other. And I want to see where this thing between us goes, if you're willing to try. Sean thought about Jessica, about the love he'd lost and the grief he'd carried, about the life he'd built afterward, small, safe, contained. And then he thought about the past 3 months, about laughter filling his apartment, about Vanessa's intelligence and strength, about 3 girls who'd braided their lives together so seamlessly that separating them would hurt them all. I'm willing to try, he said, slowly, carefully, with the girls' happiness as the priority. But yes, I want to see where this goes. Vanessa smiled, and Sean found himself smiling back. And the moment felt both monumental and perfectly natural. From the living room, Riley's voice called out, Are you two done talking about grown-up stuff? Because we need a 4th player for this game, and Skylar says you have to play, Mom. I think they know, Vanessa whispered. They absolutely know, Sean agreed. Riley's been asking pointed questions about whether I like you for 6 weeks now. They returned to the living room where the 3 girls had set up a cooperative strategy game. It's us against the game, Harper explained. We have to work together to win. Like in real life, Riley added, giving Sean a knowing look. We're stronger together than separate. They played for 2 hours. The 5 of them laughing and strategizing and celebrating small victories. At one point, Skylar leaned against Vanessa while studying her cards, and Riley did the same with Sean. And Harper sprawled across both their laps like she belonged there, which she did. When the game ended in victory, the girls cheered and high-fived, and Sean felt something shift in his understanding of family. It wasn't just blood or legal ties. It was this chosen connection, built through shared danger and deepened through chosen presence. Later, after Vanessa and the twins had finally left with promises to return tomorrow for Riley's science fair presentation, Sean tucked his daughter into bed. Daddy, Riley said as he turned off her light, I really like our new family. Harper and Skylar, and Miss Vanessa. They make everything better. They do, Sean agreed. Is it okay that I'm happy? Even though Mom's not here to see it? Sean's throat tightened. Baby, Your mom would want you to be happy. She'd love that you have sisters now, that our family is growing. Being happy doesn't mean forgetting her. It means honoring her by living the full, joyful life she wanted for you." Riley nodded, satisfied. "Good. Because I want to be happy. I want us all to be happy together." After she fell asleep, Sean stood at his kitchen window, looking out at Ashford's lights. 3 months ago, he'd been a man hiding from his past, building a small, safe life for himself and his daughter. Then violence had found them anyway, forcing him to become the Wraith one final time. But something unexpected had emerged from that danger. Not just safety, but connection. Not just survival, but new love, the romantic kind growing between him and Vanessa, and the familial kind that bound 4 girls together like they'd always been sisters. His phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. "The girls are already planning next weekend's sleepover. Also, thank you for everything, for saving us, protecting us, and now, for letting us be part of your life. We're lucky to have found you." Sean typed back, "I'm the lucky one. See you tomorrow." He looked around his apartment at Riley's volcano project on the shelf with its blue ribbon from the science fair, at the photos on the wall now including pictures of all 3 girls together, at the extra coats by the door for when Harper and Skylar forgot theirs. The Wraith was truly gone now, retired, not out of fear, but out of peace. Sean Douglas remained. Father to 1 daughter, and mentor to 2 more. Partner to a woman who matched his strength with her own. Janitor who took pride in honest work, and guardian of a chosen family that had emerged from chaos. Some stories ended with dramatic victories over evil. This one ended with something better. Quiet joy, earned safety, and the beginning of a future built not on what they'd lost, but on what they'd found in each other. 4 girls who'd become sisters. 2 adults who'd become partners. 1 family that proved the best bonds were the ones you chose. And in a small apartment in Ashford, where a janitor and his daughter had once lived small and quiet lives, love and laughter now filled every corner, proof that even after darkness, light could find its way home. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.